Am I overreacting for calling off my wedding after my fiance got drunk, put on my wedding dress, and had an accident in it? This sounds completely ridiculous, but it really happened, and I can't stop thinking about it. Some people are telling me that I completely overreacted, and I'm starting to question myself. I'm 28 and was supposed to get married last weekend to my fiance Nick, who is 30. We've been together for 4 years. He is funny and is a little bit impulsive, but I always thought he had good judgment. He drinks socially, but I've never seen him totally out of control until now. The night before our wedding, I stayed at home with my sister and 2 of my bridesmaids for a relaxed night. Nick went out with his groomsmen. I expected him to come home tipsy at most. At around 1:30 in the morning, he came home absolutely blasted. Slurring, stumbling, sweaty. I was brushing my teeth when I heard him banging around in the guest room. When I went to check, I saw him dragging my wedding dress out of the closet. I asked what he was doing, and he just laughed and said that he wanted to see how it felt to be the bride. I told him to put it back and not to touch it, but he was not listening at all. Right in front of me, he stripped down completely and started putting on the dress. He could barely get it over his body and kept tripping over the train. I didn't know what to say. Then he dropped to the floor in the dress, still laughing. Then he went quiet, looked up at me with this panicked face and said, "Oh no." A few seconds later, he had an accident. Diarrhea. It soaked through the back of the dress and onto the carpet. The smell was immediate and overwhelming. I stood there in shock while he started crying and tried to get out of the dress, which only made more of a mess. It was all over the fabric, the floor, and him. I told him to get in the shower, and I left. I drove straight to my mum's house and didn't take any of his calls. The next morning, I called off the wedding. Since then, Nick has apologized over and over. He said he blacked out and barely remembers what happened. His family is furious with me and says that I'm throwing away a great relationship over a drunken mistake. Some of my friends agree and think that I should have postponed instead of cancelling. Even my maid of honor said that I might be letting emotions take over and that it wasn't unforgivable. But I feel like something broke that night. I didn't just feel disgusted, I felt disrespected. The dress wasn't just expensive, it was important to me. It symbolized something. I cannot unsee what happened. I can't laugh about it or move on like it's just one bad night. I don't know how to look at him the same way. Am I overreacting for calling off the wedding? In the comments, Catwachu says, "Is this something that happens often? Does he often get blackout drunk? If yes, consider this a bullet dodged." Either way, it's a little concerning that he got blackout drunk the day before your wedding. I think you need to have a conversation to figure out whether this is a relationship worth saving. OP says, "No. This is the first time he's ever gotten this drunk in the time that I've known him, which is why I think I might be overreacting." Netkitten asks, "Is it possible that someone put something in his drink? From your description, this is not in character for your fiancé." And OP says, I hadn't thought of that. Maybe. Could it really have caused all of that? Also, he was out with his friends. It's not like he was with strangers." I Was the Cupcat replies, "It absolutely could have. While I don't entirely think you're overreacting, I think it could be worthwhile to talk to him and his friends and try to get a clear picture of what happened that night. I wouldn't just throw the whole relationship away right away. However, if you do work things out with him and decide the wedding is only postponed, I would 100% get an entirely new dress, possibly even a completely different style to help scrub the image of the ruined one from your memory. Maybe this is unhinged of me to think, but if it turns out his friends did drug him, they owe you a new dress." Winky face. And he also needs new friends if that's the case, because what the actual hell? Randomly drugging someone isn't okay. This isn't The Hangover or whatever stupid movie it is that a friend decides it's a good idea to drug the groom at the bachelor party. And Pino JD says, "I'll add that the night before my wedding, my husband's best friend at the time was intent on getting him shots at the rehearsal dinner. wildly, intensely focused like a laser. Luckily, we had briefed the bartender ahead of time. No shots for us. Years later, BF confessed he missed his college days. Ugh. I think this story could genuinely go a lot of ways for a lot of people, because I want to know more information on why he was that blackout drunk, and yeah, what did happen beforehand. Because I think there are many explanations for it, and in a sense, I do think that OP is overreacting a little bit here. That's not to say that what they did was wrong. That's not to say it was a bad decision to make. I think it's possible to come back from this. I think there are many plausible and acceptable explanations for his behavior, and you can rebuild what has been broken currently. Though if OP doesn't see the value in that, that's perfectly acceptable as well. It's okay to call things off. If you're not happy from this point forward, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel like this is someone you can have a future with. It sucks, it's an unfortunate series of events, but it happens. And it wouldn't be right to force yourself to do something that you don't want to do and you cannot be comfortable with. And now, on to the update. Hi again. First off, thank you to everyone who responded. I didn't expect the level of attention that my post got, and honestly, reading the replies made me feel less alone. Some people told me I was right to call it off, others said it was a terrible mistake, but not unforgivable. Both sides helped me see the situation more clearly. I spoke to Nick this morning, not for closure, not for a big emotional talk, just to return some things and check in about logistics since everything has been cancelled. But we ended up sitting down and talking for over an hour. He apologized again, sincerely. He didn't try to defend himself or shift blame. He told me he didn't remember everything clearly, but knows he came home wasted, saw the dress, and in his words, thought it would be funny or meaningful or something. He didn't mean to ruin the dress. He didn't mean to humiliate me, but he did, and he knows that. He said he's ashamed of what happened and how out of control he let himself get. He also admitted that this wasn't the first time his drinking led to something bad. He said this was a wake-up call and that he's going to stop drinking entirely. I didn't even know he had a problem. The thing is, I still care about him. We were supposed to get married. I didn't walk away from someone I didn't love, but something inside me cracked that night, and it hasn't healed. I don't know if it will. I know it sounds superficial to some people, but for me, it was a symbol of our future, of the person I thought I was marrying, and watching him defile it in that state, whether on purpose or by accident, changed something. I've been trying to figure out if that one night should be the end of 4 years together. But it's not really just that one night, is it? It's what it revealed. About how he handles stress, about how far he let himself go, about how I felt standing in that room watching someone I love become almost unrecognizable. I still haven't made a final decision yet. Technically, the wedding is still cancelled, but the relationship isn't officially over. We're on kind of an emotional pause, I guess. He says that he wants to make things right, and maybe he will. Maybe with time, I will want to try again. But right now, I still feel like I'm grieving something that ended, and I don't know if I'm ready to build it back from scratch. So I guess I'm now asking, am I overreacting if I walk away from this completely? In the comments, No Towel says, I don't think it's an overreaction to want to walk away completely. And I also think that if there's any part of you that wants to salvage things, you need to walk away completely first. If you guys keep close and talking and living together and all of those other things, neither of you will have a chance to move past this or heal or improve. People in general don't change if what they're doing works. And if he can keep you the way he is, he will slip back into drinking. But you also won't be able to change if you're still with him, and I think that something you need for yourself is to be alone and to be independent for a while. I would suggest you guys taking a year or two apart and then revisiting and deciding if it's worth trying again. Geekily replies, I chatted over this with my wife and we came to this conclusion too. He needs time to deal with his problem. which he can't fully do whilst trying to rebuild with OP. His focus needs to be on his drinking, the reason behind it, finding healthy alternatives, etc. OP, meanwhile, needs to take time away to think, reset, and find herself again. Like anyone needs after a long relationship with an abrupt end, really, and see what kind of response distance and times brings to what happened. Being in each other's spheres still will make this much harder to do. Being apart a while, we'll see if he can do what he needs to do and let OP do whatever she needs to do to move past this. Later, they can come back together if they still want to and see if they still fit. Buttercup Grump says, I don't know what I'd classify as a drunken mistake, but shitting all over your fiance's wedding dress is definitely not it. I don't even know what I'd call it. This part is what gets me. How were the people in her life telling her that she shouldn't have called it off? What other choice did she have? Most of us don't have multiple formal dresses just lying around. What, was she supposed to show up in a sundress and have to explain what happened to every single guest? And on top of that, you'd never be able to look at the wedding photos again. Even if you could get past the groom ruining the dress, even if you could get past the embarrassment of explaining to the wedding guests what happened, you'd look at the wedding photos of you in a dress that is not your wedding dress and remember it all, every single time. And even after all of that, he hid his drinking problem. Who knows what other bad decisions he has lurking in the closet. I'd never feel secure after that. I couldn't agree more. I genuinely couldn't agree more. There is a drinking problem under the surface. And maybe that sounds dramatic. Maybe this is a one-time thing, but I don't have the full story here. All I can do is guess that he does have a drinking problem and that this isn't the only thing going on. Because that is not normal behavior. That is really messed up for him to do that, and I don't blame OP for doing what she has done. Who could blame her? Who wouldn't do the same thing? Like, let's be honest. That's really disrespectful from him. I don't think I'd have respect for myself if I didn't do what she did here. If I'm to look ahead in the future, if OP does take the advice of everyone here and have a 1 or 2 year emotional break clean from this guy, they're just not getting back together. I don't think you can move past this. As OP said, something broke in me. And I don't think getting back together is possible after this. If that's how OP truly feels in her heart of hearts, if that's always going to be a stain on the relationship, I think taking that break means you're done. It is not a friend's break. It's over. We are never getting back together. This cannot work. Whether you want to call it a mistake, you want to call it an accident, I don't know what to call it. I call it stupid blackout drunk behavior, and it is what it is. I hope he doesn't make this mistake again with the next woman that he decides to marry. I hope he learns from this, and I hope OP finds some peace in her life and finds someone that will not disrespect her in this way. Thank you for the story. I hope nothing but the best for you going forward from here, OP. Our next post is by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My husband had an affair with my little sister. My life will never be the same after this. We've been married for 2 weeks. My 27-year-old husband has been sleeping with my little sister behind my back. She's 17, legal age of consent, but she's still a baby. We just found out that she's 1 month pregnant, but she refused to say who the father is. Yesterday, my parents asked me to come over. Apparently they installed a monitoring app on her phone, and that's how they found out that he's the father. My sister is saying that she's sorry over and over again. My husband also apologized, saying he made a mistake and wants us to go to counseling and stay married. I didn't say much. I told him that I'm filing for divorce. I'm not changing my mind. I know for sure that I'll never speak to him again after everything is over. As for my sister, I don't know. I honestly don't know. In the comments, Song is About You says, 17 age of consent? Where do you live? Here, it's only consent if the age gap can't be more than 6 years. And OP says, Texas. From what I've read, Kids 14 to 16 can consent to someone up to 3 years of age higher, while 17 plus can consent to anyone. Money Beginning says, I'm so sorry, OP. How long has he known your sister? If they recently met, they are both disgusting. Full stop. If he met her as a child, he probably groomed her. The fact that she was still trying to protect him after she got pregnant says a lot. Regardless, he's a predator. I also have an older sister and could never imagine doing this to her unless I absolutely hated her. I can't understand why she would do that to you. And OP says, he's known her since we started dating, so about 2 years. She was just 15. I'm sick to my stomach thinking about how long this may have been going on. Kingfisher Fanatic says, this might sound crass, but is abortion on the table? Her, a just barely legal teenager, getting groomed by an adult man since she was 15 and then carrying his baby? Yikes. Also, could you get the law involved? If he's been grooming her since she was that young, he could be in trouble. And OP says, the messages go far back, so my parents are still looking into it. Once we find out how long it was going on, then we'll get the police involved. The topic of abortion hasn't come up yet. And Can I Just Say says, check whether you can file for annulment rather than divorce. He married you under false pretenses while fathering a child with another woman. The dates will support the annulment. Also, although you won't want to hear this, get an STI test, as you don't know who else he's been cheating on you with, and it's obvious that he wasn't using protection. Sending you a hug to help hold you together a little bit. What do you even say about a story like this, besides get the police involved and figure it all out? This is genuinely a nightmare, and he needs to go to jail for what he's done. And I don't know what to do about this sister. I don't have enough information to be like, why didn't she tell OP? What's going on? But oh my god, what a mess. And now onto the update, titled, My husband was arrested this morning. Thank you to everyone who read my first post and offered support. It feels like I'm living a nightmare. A lot more has happened, so I wanted to post an update. The day I posted, they took my sister to the police. She admitted that the relationship with my husband began when she was 15. She also said things became physical when she was 16. They had exchanged inappropriate messages and images, and the content on her phone matched everything that she told them. My soon-to-be ex knew that she was pregnant. He was arrested at his job earlier today. Last night was the first time in a year that I went to bed and he wasn't there. It felt surreal. My dad, who is very religious, insists that my sister keep the baby. My mum believes that she should have the choice to end the pregnancy. I've already contacted a lawyer for the annulment and emphasized that I want no more contact with him. There is nothing left to salvage. Even though my sister has apologized several times, she still believes that she is in love with him. My family is planning to start family counseling soon. It will be focused on figuring out how to move forward and what kind of relationship, if any, I want to have with my sister. There are no clear answers right now. The support that I've received from people here has helped me feel less alone. Thank you. In the comments, Infinite5 says, he's a monster. I'm glad he's facing consequences, but I'm heartbroken for all of you who were impacted by how vile he is. Sigh. It's the only comfort that I can give. Just sigh. Because if I'm tired after reading such a thing, I can't imagine how they feel. Sometimes a sigh says more than words ever could. No one deserves that kind of betrayal. Well, that's all I'm gonna do as well. I'm gonna sigh because I believe that. I don't think anyone deserves that kind of betrayal. What a monster. I hope they lock him away, and I hope he stays locked away because that is incredibly messed up. I'm so sorry that happened to you, OP. I wish nothing but the best for you and your recovery from a situation like this, and I hope he leaves you alone and stays out of your and your family's life. No one deserves that. Our next post is by user Additional Unit, and it's titled, Therapy made me realize what an awful person I was to my ex, and it cost me what could have been a happy marriage. I finally broke down and decided to go to therapy despite my ex, We'll get more into him later, heavily suggesting it over the course of my relationship. I wanted to know why I was attracted to men that mistreated me so much, but she dragged me down to earth with my most recent ex. She basically laid out what I did wrong, asked why I did what I did, and described my actions as abusive and how I should approach the same situation going forward. I met my ex through a friend. He was a couple of years older than me, and he graduated in the early stages of our relationship. He was so caring, coming to stay with me in the library after work, just to be with me, bringing me takeout during stressful study periods, and just being there. In retrospect, I treated him like garbage. After being with so many bad exes, we have a cheater, some guys who lied about wanting a relationship with me just to get sex, etc., I kind of compartmentalized my feelings and would often box out the offending party. With the first couple of arguments, I would box out my ex for a couple of days to cool off, and he would text a couple of times of me boxing him out to ask when I'd be ready to talk, and we would, and things would be fine. I guess because he was so great, I unconsciously held him to a much higher standard. We were supposed to watch a movie together after my exam period, but he went with his friends instead. He offered to go again with me and wouldn't spoil it, nor give his opinions, so it would be like we were watching it for the first time, and I boxed him out for 5 days. He would do his texting, apologizing, and I would lash out at him. I never took any accountability for my actions. It seemed like even the smallest thing that I perceived was wrong resulted in me boxing him out. It all came to a head when he said that my boxing him out was stressing him out and that if I was so unhappy, I was free to leave. He wasn't going to force me to change. I promised to change. And then I boxed myself out. Just kidding. For a time, things did change. I went on an internship, so the stress of studying and tests were gone, and we had the best year of our relationship. We communicated at even the smallest things, and he got even more romantic with me. Even the most trivial events, like simply grocery shopping, ended up being a great date, and I was truly happy. We had even discussed getting married when my career was stable, and he got me a silver ring that was engraved with our initials and my graduation date for my left ring finger. He called it a placeholder for the real thing when the time was right. Then I went back to school. The last year of school was so bad. My lab partners were just mean or lazy. The instructors were brutal, and I struggled with the material. My ex tried to help, but as my therapist showed me that I lash out more when stressed. He came over and did the dishes, but forgot to wash the pans. I screamed at him and boxed him out for a week. I noticed a change because he only texted once during the boxing out period. In hindsight, I realized that he was preparing to leave. After the week was up, he brought up our previous discussion about me boxing him out. I was stressed and he didn't seem to care. My therapist said that he was likely beyond pissed, so I gave him lip service. At this point during our session, my therapist was blunt with me and told me that you are very lucky that he didn't leave you then and there. The straw that broke his back was my birthday. He'd been skimping and saving for the last 6 months or so. Like we'd go to cheaper restaurants, and he dialed back his nights out with his friends, like swapping bar nights to takeout and video games. But I didn't think that he'd skimp on my birthday. He took me to a cheaper place, instead of our usual steakhouse visit, and his gift was bath bombs and a basket of my favorite snacks and chocolates. I was pissed and snapped at him that he could be frugal with himself or his friends, but I thought that I was more important. Time flew by, and I boxed him out for 2 weeks. He did not text once. When I called him to ask him to come over and talk, all he said was, "I made the mistake of trying to change you. You should be with someone who will take you as you are. I'm done." And I fired back with, "Well, I won't wait for you to come back." Lo and behold, he, and all his family and friends, blocked me the minute the call ended. Luckily, the friend that introduced us did not block me so we could stay friends. When I finished that part of the story, my therapist did not hold back. She told me that I need to work on my self-importance, be more reflective on my actions and how they impact other people, how to manage my disappointment better and communicate with him better, like asking why he was being so frugal. I've done that, and I came to a horrible realization that I was awful to him. My therapist made me write all of the things that he did for me and a list of how he wronged me and got boxed out, along with the length of boxing out. The wrong part of the list was longer than the good part, but the good parts seemed to outweigh the bad. Then my therapist asked if I had ever considered that I was getting mad about the small things and using my ex as a whipping boy for my disappointments and frustration. At first, I thought she didn't understand, and as I think more, it sinks in, and I feel sick. I guess my ex got his revenge. I met with a friend that introduced us, as we're quite close, and I cried and vented about what I told my therapist and asked her if I appeared to be controlling and abusive. She was silent for a minute and said, "Yes. He told us everything, and the others all dislike you for what you did." She was a little angry too, and said, "Well, do you know why he was being frugal? It was his Instagram story, showing a brand new iPhone, AirPod Pros, and a few video games with the caption, 'We're saving up for a ring, but I guess I don't need that anymore.' Dodged a bullet and got an iPhone out of the deal." It really did hurt. If I listened to him and sought out therapy sooner, maybe I would be engaged to that wonderful man. Apparently, he was planning to do it at the convocation. I just don't know what to do now. I threw this all away. I asked my friend not to inform me of his life anymore. It just hurts to think that another girl will get to experience the happiness that he brought me. I pissed away the lottery winnings because I didn't know how to control my temper. I deserve this. Edit. I just want to thank everyone who commented and provided insights. Honestly, as I typed my responses, I realized how much my friend did for me. I should thank her for not leaving me at this trying time. I suspect that my ex deliberately did not give her the instructions to cut me out, nor force her to choose between us. I don't have a lot of friends. Well, she's like my only friend left, and he probably didn't want me to be alone. I guess that was his one last act of kindness. I wish I could go back in time and cherish that man, but sadly, he's gone. In the comments, Animated Difficult says, "What was going through your head for that 2 weeks? Like, were you just pissed the entire time? Or missing him? Forgot about him?" OP says, "Pissed mostly. Kind of like a cocktail of him giving me a shitty birthday gift, him not reaching out to try and fix things, school not going well, and he's not there to support me, etc. Just things haven't been going well, and this fight gave me an easy villain to channel my anger to." Havoc294 says, "Sad face. You did deserve this. But now you know, so you can make sure that you don't deserve this in the future. Very sad reading your story, as I'm a male who was in the same boat as your ex. Loved a girl to no end, was beaten into submission before I got trapped. The only difference is that I'm sure she's a borderline sociopath who would only pretend to get better with therapy. But you're out there doing it. I hope everything goes well." OP says, "Thanks for sharing your perspective as someone who was on my ex's side. I know I messed up big time. Based on my past, I think I let my soulmate walk away. Why? Because I needed a whipping boy because I couldn't handle my feelings? Hell, I could have talked to him about being frustrated and he would have bought me pizza or wine or something to calm me down. But what did I do? I ghosted him instead. I don't think I'll find someone like him again." I think it's great to hear this from the other side, as someone that has perpetuated the abuse and recognized that what they're doing is wrong, and not lived in denial about their own actions either, like truly owned up to what they did to someone else they cared about. Because, I don't know, call it pattern-seeking behavior, call it my bias. I feel like all too often, the one that does harm and the one that does wrong denies that, what they did was that bad. The narcissist's prayer, It didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, well, maybe you deserved it. Stuff like that, there's always an out. There's always a goalpost to shift this to, not just like, I did you dirty, I did the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I'm going to go get help and be a better person. You didn't deserve that. It'd be nice to hear that more often, but I'm just not seeing it. And I would love to see more stories like OP's. And now, on to the update. Since there was so much support, I guess I owe you all an update. I reached out to my friend to grab dinner and chat so I could thank her for her support. We had a nice chat, and she said what you guys said. She was happy that I was getting help. I read a lot of your responses, and quite a few of you empathized with my ex. Honestly, I never really thought about what he went through during my boxing out. I just knew that it triggered his anxiety, and he didn't like it. So I did a stupid thing and decided to ask her. First, I asked how he was doing. She asked if I really wanted to know. I did. You all said that being boxed out for periods of time caused trauma. I just wanted to see if he was okay. She just showed me a group photo of them. I couldn't recognize him at all. He lost so much weight and looked fit. We were overweight while dating, but he shed his cheek fat and got on more tight-fitting clothes. Apparently during the last box out, the guys got him a gym membership and he really dove in after leaving me and has been religiously going since. I decided to ask about what I did to him. I told my friend that my therapist wants me to understand how my actions, in this case my boxing out, affected him. What I heard made me feel even worse. Apparently, he started getting more apologetic over the smallest things. One example she gave was that he brought less food to a potluck than the others and started apologizing over and over. Then he started binge drinking sporadically. He told his friends that it was to cope with work stress. I really know, and they all know now, that we had been fighting. One night of binge drinking, one of the guys was commenting about how he had a minor squabble with his girlfriend over not liking the notebook, and that set my ex off. He had a full-on mental breakdown and basically spilled out everything I had done to him at this point. That's when they turned on me. When I boxed him out, they would let him text me once and basically try to distract him while taking his phone away until he stopped trying to panic apologize. Then they started to tell him that he was being abused and to leave me. That was before the second time he asked me to change. They wanted him to leave me then, but he insisted that I would change. Then the final time he agreed with them and gave them explicit instructions to block my number and delete my contact info when he gave the signal. However, he told my friend that she was free to do whatever she wanted. He said he wasn't going to kill a friendship over his problems. Then he left, and then the wall of silence came up. I wish I had never asked. I wish I thought about what he was going through. I had my head so far up my own arse that I thought I was right and self-absorbed in my world where he was wrong and I was right and he deserved that punishment. Anyways, I'm signing off now. I won't be using this account again. Thank you for all of your support and making me see the hard things. I'll continue with my therapy and hopefully find someone who treats me as well as my ex did. In the comments, Zombie Zookeeper says, I am majorly happy for that guy. Truly. Good on him for knowing his worth and walking away. Good on OP for doing the therapy and reflection after the fact, but that ex was the real winner here. His life would have been hell had he proposed, because she would have only gotten more abusive and more demanding. OP reminds me of my ex-girlfriend. She would do a similar thing where any perceived disrespect would get me shut out for a few days until she was ready to talk about it. It's so exhausting to deal with, and I'm glad that the boyfriend was able to eventually find the strength to just leave. I know how hard it is, because every time I tried to break up with my ex, she would cry and promise to change, and I wanted to believe her because the times she wasn't like that were incredible. Dealing with this was definitely a formative experience in terms of helping me draw my lines and boundaries for how I deserved to be treated in future relationships. Also, the part about her projecting her bad past experiences with men onto her current great partner reminds me of my current girlfriend. That's been something that I've been working on with her over the last 2 years that we've been together too. Penguin Seb says, OP is taking the right steps to not hurt others in the future, which is good. That said, man, I feel bad for her ex. She was mad at everybody. Everyone at her school was against her. The friend group was against her. The boyfriend. It must feel awful to feel like the world is attacking you constantly. What must actual strife be like for her? She's one of those folks that you'd see absolutely screaming at a service worker. Yeah, and I very much appreciate her for coming and bringing her awful but understandable perspective to the group chat. Thank you for sharing with the homies how you really felt. Thank you for running us through the thought process, OP. Again, I'm going to keep repeating this. I hope energy like that never makes its way into my life, because God, I will take a long walk off a short cliff if I ever have to deal with someone like OP. Thank you, divine Reddit algorithm, for bringing me stories like this so I know what not to look for in my life. I really feel like her ex gave her too many chances during that entire period. He just kept letting himself be abused. I can understand why he would stick around, and I know that's something I always say, oh, I understand why you're doing this, I am sympathetic of that. But seriously, like those comments said, the good times are phenomenal, but the bad times make you want to jump off a cliff. But those good times will always outweigh the bad times until it gets to a point. And that seems to be a common trend in human interaction, huh? Still gonna repeat what I said before. Glad OP sees the error of their ways. Glad they're getting some genuine help and actually addressing this. I hope they don't repeat those same mistakes with their next partner, but time will tell with that one. Thank you for coming with your story to Reddit, sharing with the community, OP. This is a valuable and rare peek behind the curtains. And I think it was quite mature to bring this story to us so we can see why you're doing what you're doing. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.